Let's call the meeting for the August 13th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Local Planning Agency to order. And we'll start with an invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have Member Mellon lead us in the pledge, and if everyone can please rise. Heavenly Father, as we come here tonight, we ask a blessing on our meeting. We ask for the wisdom to make good decisions and recommendations onto our commission. We ask a blessing on all of our students as they go back to school this month. Keep them safe and keep them well. Let them have an enjoyable school year. Put a blessing on our teachers as they teach our young minds and help them along in this year. We ask a blessing on our staff for the job that they do. We appreciate them and appreciate everything they do for our city. We also ask a blessing on our first responders. Keep them safe as they keep us safe. And as always, Lord, put a blessing on our military. Wherever they are in the world, keep them safe and bring them home to us. We ask all of this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, we will turn it over to you for a roll call.
Chair Keller.
Present.
Vice Chair Williams.
Present.
Member Lomnick.
Here, present.
Member Mellon.
Present.
Member Wunderlich.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we get started, let me just say welcome to our new member, Brad Lomnick there. Welcome aboard. We're happy to have you and back to a full board again. So
Thank you.
welcome. All right. First order of business is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on June the 11th, 2019, as the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All right. We have a motion by Member Wunderlich. We have a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. We have no old business, so we're going to move straight into the new business. First order of business is a annexation of the Skipper property. Actually, yeah, okay, we'll do that one first. Go ahead, and Planner Hines.
Keel Gadgetar, zoning manager, for the record.
Uh-oh.
So,
Sorry, they got me here as Planner Hines. Sorry about that.
so the first three items on the agenda there, annexation and zoning, rezoning. Just a quick summary overview of what they are. The annexation process is within the Florida statutes to change government jurisdiction over land. It's mostly county to city. The requirements for annexation, the property must be adjacent or next to the property that's already within a part of the city. The benefit to the citizen is that it allows the citizen to take advantage of the services of the city. For the city itself, the state funding relies on the population, so therefore more funding per person comes into the city. And with annexation, we do the rezoning. The property is given an Ocoee zoning classification since Orange County, for the most part, the classification is no longer applicable once it's annexed into the city. And with that, I'll pass it over to Planner 1, Gregory Heights.
All right.
So the first property we have that is annexed is the Skipper property. And this is located on 1936 Adair Street. So it's a little bit south of Kalkona Ocoee Road. And it sits directly west of Adair Street. And this is actually eligible for annexation because here, these two parcels here are part of the city of Ocoee, and then also this southern parcel here. And they're gonna annex into the city as a condition for water service. The property itself is a flag lot, and it's a little bit over an acre in size. We're we're gonna be rezoning it from A1, which is rural agriculture, Orange County, to R1, which is low density for Ocoee. And right here is why we're gonna zone it R1, because if you look here, the surrounding parcels are all R1 besides here. So it's gonna be changed to R1. This is just the existing the existing land use map that shows you all the surrounding parcel are primarily low residential. So this is gonna be keeping in line with that in the yellow. And then this here is just a more aerial satellite view of the property and where it sits at. And then this is actually Adair Street here. And based on our tax rate, when this annexed into the city, it's gonna bring an extra $842 into the city on property taxes. And those are some of the reasons why they're gonna annex into the city, because they're already receiving water services.
Okay.
And if you had any question, I can answer those.
All right. Before we open the public hearing, any questions from the dais? All right. Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody with any questions or concerns on the Skipper property? Hearing none, we are going to close the public hearing and bring it back for the vote. There are two motions necessary. First motion would be for an annexation, and then if that is approved, we would need one for the rezoning to the R1. So I'll start. Can we get a motion to approve the annexation?
I'll make a motion to approve the annexation of the Skipper property, 1936 Adair Street, project number AX-05-19-82.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Member Mellon. We have a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Moving on, Planner Hines, while we have you up there, our next one is the Cruz Smeller property.
I think we have to do a motion on it.
Oh, I'm sorry, we need I'm getting ahead of myself. We need the motion for the rezoning.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as a local planning agency, recommend approval of the rezoning of 1936 Adair Street, also known as the Skipper property, case number RZ 190506.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion by by Vice Chair Williams. We have a second by Member Wunderlich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now, we'll move on to Cruz Smeller there, getting ahead of myself.
Okay, so the next property that's annexed into the city is the Cruz Smeller property. It's located at 1557 Blackwood Avenue. This is just a location map again. It's showing you where this is located at. It's actually located directly east of Blackwood Avenue, and it's just directly south of Old Winter Garden Road. So this is like the apartment complex here, and then also the Citrus Medical Center. So right directly south of the hospital and Walmart.
Okay.
And then the next map is just, again, it's the surrounding zoning map, just showing you what's zoned around here. This property is actually eligible for annexation because they just recently connected to city water. And it touches this property right here, which is also zoned as R1. And when this is annexing in, it's gonna be switching from A1. Right now it's at A1, which is general agriculture for Orange County, and it's gonna be, when it annexed, they're gonna be rezoning it to R1, which is low density residential, which is kind of in line with the home in the north of it, right here. Our next map just shows you the existing land use, that as you can see, it keep in line with the properties over here, which are primarily low density residential family. This is just a more area view of the property here, and it's located here, and then right there is Old Winter Garden Road, so it's just directly south of Old Winter Garden Road. The property is a little bit over half an acre in size, and it is estimated to bring around $884 into the city once it becomes annexed into the city.
All right.
And
Okay.
if you have any question, I can answer those.
Any questions from the dais? Hearing none, let's open the public hearing. Do we have any questions on the, or anybody who'd like to speak on the Cruz Smeller property? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back up, and again, we need two motions, and I'll try to do two this time before I move on to the next one. So if we can get a motion for an annexation.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as the local planning agency, recommend approval of the annexation of the property known as Cruz Smeller property at 1557 Blackwood Avenue, project AX 061983.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Member Wunderlich, a second by Member Lomnick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. All right, we need a second motion now for the rezoning to R1.
Oh, man. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
All right,
on the Cruz Smeller property at 1557 Blackwood Avenue, project number RZ190608. I make a motion that we approve the rezoning to R1.
all right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Member Lomnick. We have a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Carried. All right, and that brings us to our third one for the night. And this one, we will have a couple of members that will be speaking before the board. So, but again, Planner Hines, we'll turn it over to you to introduce it to us.
Okay, so the next property is the Hackney Perry property located on 8815 Hackney Perry Road. This here is just a location map of the property. As you can see here, it's located directly north of Hackney Perry Road. And so this property is actually going to be, right now is A1, which is rural agriculture, Orange County. And what we're proposing is to rezone it to city of Ocoee A1, general agriculture. This property here is actually, it was recently purchased by the city, and it's about 2.8 acres in size, so it's just under 3 acres in size. And it's eligible for annexation because directly north of here is a retention pond, which is part of the city of Ocoee, and it touches that, so it is eligible to be annexed into the city. The surrounding area around here is low density residential, and then you have this here, which is unincorporated Orange County. Okay. This here just shows the surrounding zoning, existing land use. Here is the retention pond, which is part of the city. And then you also have here low density residential, and then the white is unincorporated Orange County. Right now, I know that the property has an existing single family home, and when it annexed into the city, based on property tax, it'll bring about $1,200 into property tax. But that's pending on what we're gonna do with the property, which is pending. And what I said earlier, that we're planning on making it from A1 general agriculture to Ocoee general agriculture. So it's gonna stay the same, it's just changing it to the city of agriculture classification.
And Mr. Chairman, Mike Rumor, Development Services. Just want to add, we did kindly receive some questions from a resident that may want to speak, and just want to give a little bit more background on this property that Planner Hines does not have. This property, you can go aerial view. this property has a drainage problem due to the pond to the north side, and there was significant drainage issues with this property and single-family home that's on it. And the city looked at rectifying the drainage problem, and it ended up being more prudent, more cost-effective just to purchase the property out from under the property owner. The immediate benefit was the city kind of took care of a drainage problem for a resident. Their plans are to look at the drainage, have more time to really plan out a drainage. Potentially, if they can fix the drainage and keep the single-family home, carve out that piece that would then be attached to the pond to the north and kind of fix the drainage issue, and then release the property and sell as a single-family home. The property was purchased with stormwater fund, which is an enterprise fund separate from the general fund. Obviously, it's adjacent to a school. There's no proposal to develop it in any way other than to fix drainage. No new development. Wouldn't put anything besides residential on this parcel. It's a flag lot. You can't further subdivide. That's kind of the limit of what I know on this property. There's some good questions about the rural settlement district. We initially, when the city owns property and it's within near our JPA, the old JPA we had, we generally try to annex it in if it's eligible by statute and it has the adjacency. Knowing that this is the rural settlement area, we waited until we have on a staff level an agreement with Orange County to continue that JPA line to the west. So this is going to fall within the JPA that we are hoping to adopt in September, October. And so we're comfortable annexing it at this time. So.
Before we open the public hearing, any additional questions from the dais? Member Mellon.
Yeah, I got a question. How come it's going to be zoned to agricultural when all the surrounding areas right there are zoned low-density residential?
Good question. Our comprehensive plan really kind of doesn't look at agricultural uses per se, and we don't have an agricultural land use. But in this instance, since we just wanted to bring the property into the city's boundaries and didn't want to give it a residential zoning, which could kind of cause concerns to neighbors, we can always come back and rezone it again if we end up carving off the drainage issue and if somebody, but you can't further subdivide. So there's really no intent, there was no final need to give it its final zoning of residential at this point. We're giving it the agricultural zoning.
Are there
And it'll be, may give it, if we retain it, there's options. We can make it a park. If we make it a passive park, we'll rezone it to institutional. So
Member Wunderlich?
it's sort of that comfort level with the county and the residents. Say we're just bringing it in the city. We really don't have to give it a zoning designation, but agriculture would be what this county has. This is a little bit different area than the properties on Adair, where they're going to start filling in and they're all going to be residential. So that's why we gave it. I decided to give it an agricultural zoning, but good question.
Mr. Wunderlich, Member Wunderlich?
Thank you, Mr. Mellon picked up on that. Thank you very much.
All right, any additional questions? I guess the one other question that was on that form before we opened the public hearing, but I know there was another question about the about your right-of-way for the driveway. Is there? I take it there's not going to be any issue with that, but I
we
probably should at least
received
address it.
correspondence from an attorney in my office, the planning office. We did not participate in purchasing the property.
Okay.
And it discussed an easement that has been in place. It's not a recorded easement. We've forwarded that on to Public Works, and we should have, I would expect an answer by the time this goes to the City Commission for the final approval, have an answer on that easement issue.
Okay, thank you. All right. With that, I am going to open the public hearing, and Ms. Deanne Claiborne, am I pronouncing that right? Yeah, come on up to the mic there, and if you'll start by just giving us your name and address, and then your comments.
All right. Thank you, all of you, for your time tonight. My name is Deanne Claiborne. My husband, Jack, and I reside at 8829 Hackney Prairie Road. That is the property you see on the map that is adjacent to the west of the subject property. Additionally, the letter that was sent by Attorney Jim Pratt was sent on my behalf. It was initially, our initial concern was in regard to the driveway easement. We've lived on the property for 18 years. We've had an understood driveway easement on it's a 40-foot strip, that strip that goes down the property. And we've had an easement for 20 feet of that with no problem in conjunction with our neighbor. However, tonight I have additional questions, specifically in regard to the suggestion that a park may be placed in the subject property. In the interest of time, I know I only have a few minutes, so what I'd like to do is simply ask questions, because I do not have answers to these questions at this time. And if we can we go back to the map that you placed? It was one of the sketches, I think it was the sketch before this map. I want to point, yes, thank you. So if you look at this map on the surrounding existing land use map, you see that the subject property, the property that is to the west, that shows to be within the city limits of Ocoee, that is incorrect. We are part of a rural settlement community. I am on the border of that community. So I want to point out before I ask my questions that by annexing into the city of Ocoee, you place my property and the property directly to the north as an enclave. It creates an enclave. Now let me ask my questions. These are our concerns. What is the city planning to do with this property? How will the city ensure that future development of this property is consistent with the Clarkona Rural Settlement? How will the city ensure that future development of this property will be similar and compatible with the surrounding area and consistent with the existing pattern of surrounding development? How will the city ensure that future development of this property will not be a detrimental intrusion into the surrounding area? How will the city ensure that future development of this property will not exacerbate existing traffic problems? And with that, I'd like to add that there is an elementary school about a quarter of a mile down the road from us, which I'm not opposed to the sound of children laughing, but it does increase traffic, and placing a park or any other facility would further increase that traffic. And then specific to our property, as I already mentioned, how will the city ensure that the future development of this property will not negatively impact the 20-foot driveway easement we have used for the past 18 years? And how will the city ensure that the future development of this property will not isolate us from our rural settlement and create an enclave of our property? And I would point you to section 171.043 and 044 of the Florida statutes. Thank you for your time.
Okay. All right. I don't know, Mike, if you've got any answers to that?
Well, just kind of
or-
one where you're seeing, go back to that land use map, where you're seeing the yellow on the speaker's property, where it would, on this future land use map, on the existing land use. What we did in our comprehensive plan is under the previous joint planning area agreement, that line went by here, and we gave it a future land use at such time as it ever did annex into the city. That new joint planning area land use map will run down the railroad track, and these parcels in our future joint planning area future land use will assume the yellow low-density residential. Doesn't mean they're in at such time as they ever do annex into the city. Point of our joint planning area agreement with the county, where we determined a logical line for future annexations, they would come in under a low-density residential land use because we do not have an agricultural land use. So, yes, this zoning map is current zoning. It shows it is in the county. Our future land use, at such time that it annexed, it would come in under a low-density residential land use. That's what that's indicating. So, again, the easement is we're the property owners. We'll have an answer at City Commission as the property owners. With regards to creating enclaves, point of the joint planning area agreement is we consider all of this an enclave, and we're reducing an enclave, which you can do by Florida law up to 110 acres a year. And so we're identifying enclaves with the county under a process where we can annex them under a joint agreement. And then as we have properties that seek voluntary annexation, like the previous two petitions where they ask for an annexation and meet the criteria, we annex them in. And then certainly as we purchase properties, by bringing it into the city, it's now our code enforcement, our police, our fire can go to this property and deal with it. And it's not under county's jurisdiction, so. With regards to future development, meeting the rural settlement, our joint planning area does not discuss annexing lands that's in the rural settlement that we have to meet their acreage criteria. This parcel is not ripe for future development. It has a single-family home on it. The city has ownership. It's adjacent to a school. It's adjacent to a city pond. I threw out, it could be it's not going to be an apartment building or a retail establishment under this sort. So future development, how do you ensure? I just ensure that it's going to be residential, not medium-density, multifamily residential in any aspect at this point.
I have a quick question. The pond in the back, though, I see that part of the property surrounding zone map, that is in the city.
Yes, that's the Sawmills pond.
Yeah. Yes. And there wouldn't be any future rezoning to be able to break that piece up, right?
In order to subdivide, you see you have a flag lot.
Yeah.
You can subdivide a parent parcel under a lot split from 1 up to 3 or 4 parcels. After you do that split, you can no longer do another lot split. It appears, I haven't researched this, but because you have the flag and you have these parcels, see how they all kind of, the criteria for making a new lot that is eligible for a building permit is you have to have 20 feet of deeded frontage on a public road. This flag is 40 feet. If this parcel has been in existence in this fashion since the 60s, potentially you might be able to split and get a flag down the center and have 20 feet on each side.
Right.
Potentially, at best. Under the agricultural zoning, though, you've got to have the 1 acre outside of any wetlands or floodplain. So,
Last question I have. So since there is 40 feet, would we be able to offer to sell them the 20 feet? Is that something they're going to try to discuss?
I don't want to bind the property owner. But if, in this case, they represent it's 40 feet, we haven't measured it, but if it's 40 feet, it could be diminished down to 20 in this single-family home in this parcel, as long as it meets the minimum zoning, what's the word I want to say? It's not, it's in good standing. It's not non-conforming, it would be a conforming lot. Yes. You don't want to become a non-conforming because you can't add on to the house, so it would still be a conforming lot.
Sounds like something the commission can figure out.
All right. Let's see, Jack Claiborne, are you want to get up as well, or? Yes. All right, come on. Come on up, same thing, give a name and address when you get up there, and we'll then take comments.
Again, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate the opportunity to share our concerns regarding this property. We are former residents of the city of Ocoee, and when we moved from out west, absolutely loved. We were in the Reflections neighborhood, and so we have nothing against the city of Ocoee, but we moved out of the city of Ocoee for the specific purpose of getting out of an urban development into a rural area. And so when we purchased this 1.56 acres, it was zoned rural agricultural. and obviously with the surrounding properties being rural agricultural. And so I have two questions. One is, I understand that they're trying to eliminate the enclave, but by doing so, with annexing that property, it creates an additional enclave, which separates our property as well as the property north and west of our property. If we can go back one more time to the map, I had a question regarding that map there. The planner mentioned that they want to future zone it as low density residential. And my question is, when we purchase the property, it's agricultural, and we wouldn't want to be rezoned as low density residential. Do we have that option of fighting that?
And Mr. Rummer, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I would think at this point, since we're not looking at having you come into the city yet, you would stay agricultural. You would stay agricultural. The only thing that would change is because we don't really have an agricultural. In the future, I could see us becoming an R1, which would be, you got one home on there, so that would make sense that it would be a residential property. But yours at this time, I can't see changing.
And these maps are 20-year horizon. It's how we plan for the future. So when we plan for a population of 75,000 people, how do you get there? Well, we won't have agricultural lands, really. And so it's not your property's in Orange County, as long as you, whoever owns it, does not voluntarily annex, or at some point potentially meet the criteria for annexation by statute, where the city and county have to, by law, diminish enclaves. But at such time as that property does come into the city, it would assume the low-density residential land use. Again, the city of Ocoee doesn't have an agricultural or a citrus rural land use like the county does. Our smallest is low-density residential. It has no bearing on your property in the present. All building permits, all zoning is still the county until such time as it annexed.
And if it were annexed and rezoned, would we still have the opportunity to have horses or cattle or?
Yes. Our land development code offers the opportunity to have chickens and barnyard animals, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now my second question, and I appreciate that explanation. My second question is in regards to, you mentioned that they could possibly put a park into that area. Obviously, there would be limited access to that property or to the park due to two situations. One, the 20-foot annex that currently exists as our driveway, and two is if they did that, where would the access point be for that park? Because obviously you're looking at two different pieces of property that would have access running between the two homes.
Right. Yeah, so saying it could be a park is trying to just go through development scenarios. So you understand, under the low-density residential and under city ownership, what kind of development happens under there. It's a stormwater pond, a park. I wasn't saying that's the plan to make it a park, but I was just kind of going over development scenarios to say the city doesn't develop single-family homes and then sell them. So under our ownership, that's the development potential. I'm not saying that's the specific potential for that parcel. That's just how we are kind of sort of development. Lift stations, we could put a lift station on it. Or you could put, I don't know what else for what the city would do. So I was just kind of explaining that.
Thank you. And then the last question I have for the board is, at what point could we expect answers to the questions that have been presented tonight?
I guess the question would be, would they be ready to have answers for the commission meeting?
Well, I kind of answered, we don't have to abide, we don't have the rural settlement standards in our comprehensive plan or our land development code. So we don't meet what you would have in the adopted Orange County rural settlement area guidelines. So that's 1 unit per 5 acres. You know, there's a new Wawa going in the rural settlement. I don't really know what kind of criteria the county has for rural settlement, but what I know for single family, it's 1 unit per 5 acres, like the annexation of the GLE project that was before you. In the land use in the county and the zoning would be 1 unit per 5 acres. There's no design criteria in the rural settlement that each, post and rail and a fence, post and rail fence. So the answer to ensure meeting the rural settlement, we don't have any criteria to meet the rural settlement.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Any additional questions? Seeing nobody else, we're going to close the public hearing, bring him.
Can I ask any questions I've already spoken?
I would say, yeah, as long as we're not repeating, yeah.
And again, I'm not familiar with land use, so forgive me for some of these issues. Is the city of Ocoee, I assume, required to follow Florida statutes? And, well, let me back up on that. That seems a redundant question. Who determined that this is already an enclave? Who makes that determination? Was that a judgment call by the planning department?
So the city of Ocoee and Orange County had a joint planning area agreement that talks about the elimination of enclaves. It sets the future city limits for the city of Ocoee, and it sets we will not annex outside of this line. This parcel, this area, previously your parcel was in the joint planning area. The parcel under application was not. In the joint planning area negotiations that I have with Orange County and the city attorney, this area west of the railroad tracks will be in the future joint planning area agreement. Because we have a joint planning area agreement, we can diminish the size of enclaves. The enclave issue, if you think about it, I'm trying to find a zoomed out map, but why is it prudent for the county to have to provide services all the way out here when we have city services adjacent to it? So we're eliminating a future need for the county to provide services in a distance and when you have adjacent ability to provide those services by the city. So the function of the joint planning area agreement and statute allows you to begin working on knocking down and taking out those enclaves, one piece of the puzzle at a time.
Okay, however,
I'm happy to add to that. Mike's done a great job of explaining it, and I don't have a whole lot to add, but I will say that under the definition of enclave is defined in Florida statute, and that definition is the definition that's applied by all the cities and all the counties in the state. So you can't make a judgment call as to what is or isn't an enclave because it's clearly defined in statute. But what Mike's explaining is also in the statute, there's a provision that allows cities and counties to enter into an interlocal agreement to agree to annex enclaves so that we do away with them because of the issue he was discussing. It's inefficient for the county to come out and pick up trash and take care of other county municipal type services that counties provide when property's sitting in the middle of a city. When the city has trash service, they have water, they have sewer, they have public works, they have all of this going on. So everybody, city and county, looks at these joint planning area plans to look to see how we're going to prepare for the future, how we're going to build roads, how we're going to build fire stations, how we're going to prepare for the future. And a part of that is to be sure that property that is in a city's urban area under the joint planning area agreement becomes part of the city eventually, so that the county doesn't have to come out with a trash truck and pick up trash in the middle of the city, and other services that they provide. But to further explain the concern about land use designations, those are not zoning categories. Those are land use. That's the map we all use to decide what kind of zoning we can place on properties. And so part of our long-range planning with the JPA is to go in and determine what land use is appropriate for all the properties. Now, they may have different zonings, like yours will continue to have a different zoning, but the future land use in our planning process, as Mike said, so we can look 20 years out and down the road, is that this is all eventually going to become, low-density residential. So when we look at our JPA map, our land use map, when we do our JPA, that's a joint planning area agreement, we try to determine what the land use will be in the future so we can plan things like fire stations and roads and whatnot. And this is all a function of joint planning. And like Mike said, we used to have the line, our JPA that expired earlier this year has a line right there at your property, but now because it doesn't really make sense for this little bit of property to remain under the unincorporated responsibility. So we went in and we are right now working with the county to clean up these boundaries so that it makes perfect sense. And a lot of our property, of course, abuts other cities as well. So, that way there's not some little piece of property between us and Winter Garden that the county has to come in and provide services. So we try to clean up our boundaries so that each city has the opportunity to annex different properties in the future so that we can make for more efficient services and efficient use of taxpayers' dollars. So that's kind of the answer about.
And there's also one additional way to annex, and the properties, if you have an urban service boundary agreement, you can annex properties that are not contiguous. I broached that, but didn't move forward. So we're still stuck with the adjacency.
Okay, thank you for the very thorough explanation. As I understand it, in your effort to reduce the enclave, though, you've created two in this plan.
Sometime, and the statute does tell us we need to try to reduce enclaves, and it does sometimes happen that in order to reduce an enclave, you do create two, but you're actually not creating two enclaves, you're reducing one enclave. It's still an enclave.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does both, is what it does, because it obviously creates two. But I see what you're saying with the reduction. So my other question is, can you speak to, and I understand that you threw this out as a possibility, you make it sound as if it's a remote possibility that they would put a park there, but can you speak to what type of park it would be? And back to my husband's question, where would the access point be?
Well, there's only one access to the property.
Okay, so it would definitely be down my driveway easement.
Potentially,
And
that's the
the
access
type
point.
of park? What are the options?
There-
Could it be a skateboard park?
There's two types of parks, active and passive. Active has some sort of facility that you go and actively use. Passive is you walk around and don't use the facility.
Okay, so it could be either?
There's two types of parks. If a property is going to be made a park, it's either going to be made an active park or a passive park.
Okay, so the answer to my question is it could be either?
Could be either.
And could it be a skateboard park?
It could be a number of
Could it be a
things.
skateboard park?
It could be pickleball, it could be tennis, it could be,
I'm
city
trying to
park.
get down to the detail of what the possibilities might be, because I want you as commissioners to understand what we as residents are facing. So could it be a skateboard park? Is that within the scope?
It could be a passive park. We don't have any skateboard parks. I cannot bind the commission to say they would ever approve a skateboard park.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not being clear. Is that a possibility within the scope of your annexation and your zoning?
It could be all I can answer is it could be an active park if we do a park, or a passive. I'm not going to say yes, it could be, because that decision is made by the city.
Yeah, I was going to say, the city commission would have to answer that question.
And I'm not asking you to tell me whether or not you're going to put a skateboard park in there. What I'm trying to find out is, what is the scope of possibility of types of parks that would be next to my home? And so I'm just asking, is that within the scope of an active park?
I'd say no, we don't have a skateboard park within the city of Ocoee that's been presented to the city commission a number of times
Yeah,
and been turned down.
we turned it down every time it got presented, so I mean, at this point, the only honest answer we can give you is either going to be active or passive. My own, and this is my own opinion, this is not city opinion, this is just personally my own opinion. My opinion was that they bought the property so they could solve the problem and sell the property back out as a single residential home. If you want my personal, and it's, like I said, strictly personal opinion on this is not city's not saying yes or no to this. It's just what I see based on my looking at it is they had a problem, they want to take care of it, they needed the time to take care of it. What you're going to do is you're going to see them sell the property as a single residential home. It would be too much work to really do anything else with it, to be quite honest with you.
I bring this up to show you, the city has a really large park. I mean,
Yeah.
not even a few hundred feet. So there'd be no,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's,
heck, this park is really, is being upgraded, and this is our parks. So,
I would say at this point, we can't really deal with hypotheticals, right? I mean, it's a hypothetical, so I mean, I would like to come back and just ask, have we met the requirements for annexation?
yes,
Okay. Have we met the requirements for rezoning?
yes.
Okay.
And I would again point you to statute 171.043 and .044. It's my understanding that you have not. I appreciate your time, and Chairman Keller, I appreciate your last comments. If I can just say, my husband and I, our preference would be that you do exactly what you said you think is intended, and that is to take a portion of that property that has the flooding issue and sell off the remainder to be another a rural community home.
and I'd be surprised if they do anything else, but like I said, that's just my own personal opinion. I can't speak for the city on that.
All right. Thank
And
you
this
all
would
for
be,
your time.
this would be a good time to talk with your city commissioner, as well as to be present at the public hearing for the city commission, where
Yeah.
those kinds of questions really can be answered.
And do you have a date or a time for that next meeting?
Do we know when that's going to come before them?
Yes. The first reading of ordinance, which is not a public hearing, it's not taken up, the city attorney simply reads the ordinance for annexation and the ordinance for zoning, will be the third Tuesday in September, which is September 17th. The second reading of ordinance, public hearing for public comment, will be Tuesday, October the
First.
1st.
Okay.
6:15.
Yes, 6:15.
Yeah, so definitely be there for that one, because by that time, they should be able to have all the answers to your questions, especially since they have them on record now. Since you presented them, that becomes part of the public record, so they should be able to know that you're going to come in with those and be able to answer
Very
them
good.
more fully than we can.
Very good. Thank you again all for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, what we're going to do is we're going to close the public hearing and bring it back. Once again, we do need two motions, one for the annexation and one for the rezoning to keep it general agricultural. So I will,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
all right,
On the property 8815 Hackney Prairie Road, I make a motion that we accept the annexation of project AX 061984.
and is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Member Lomnick, we have a second by Vice Chair Williams. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Now we need a second motion on having it a general agricultural.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission, acting as a local planning agency, recommend approval of the rezoning for 8815 Hackney Prairie Road property to general agricultural, case number RZ 190609.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a quick question, I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a general agriculture or not? I thought you said before we don't have an agriculture, but we're still putting it back to A1?
We still have a zoning designation of agriculture. We don't have a future land use
Okay,
designation.
thanks, sorry.
All right. So we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams. We have a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Thank you all, and thank you for your input. And at this point, we have the next one is Chandri variance, and this one, we have zoning manager Gajadar. Am I pronouncing that close to
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Correct. All right, hello again, Commission. The item for discussion is a variance or a request for variance at 1108 East Silver Star Road. A quick overview of a variance. So what is it? It's a relief of the terms of the zoning ordinance for the height, area, or size of the structure or yard and open spaces. So what criteria should be met for a variance? It should not conflict with the public interest. Enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary and undue hardship, and it's considered on a case-by-case basis. So the specific property at 118 East Silver Star Road has an approximate size of 9,260 square feet. It's located north of Silver Star Road and west of 2nd Street. The lot width is 65.56 feet and has a zoning of Ocoee R1, which is single-family dwelling. The requirements, or the minimum requirements for Ocoee R1 is a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet and a minimum lot width of 70 square feet. So as I said, the property lot width is 65.56 feet. And the variance being requested is to allow for a minimum lot size, or lot width of 65.56 feet. So why is this variance appropriate? Well, Orange County R1 allows a minimum lot width of 50 feet width. So if you look to the north of the property, these are all properties that were Orange County R1 and got annexed into the city with 50-foot lot width. Also, the lot is directly adjacent to those lots at 50-foot width, and the lot size far exceeds the minimum for R1 zoning. As I said, the lot is 9,260 square feet. The minimum is 7,000. And lastly, it allows for the construction of a single-family dwelling similar to the adjacent lots as the next step. And staff does not object to this variance. And with that, I can answer any questions on the variance.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, but I just wanted to, I've got some great staff. Variances are tough. I did variances for 3 years at Seminole County, just variances. Just kind of want to just shed a little bit more into the background on this. I actually have some background with the property owners on this. And we have, building codes have changed, and in building plans, typically you don't have that ranch-style house anymore. Houses today are a little bit not as wide, and they're deeper. And also on a setback, which these properties will adhere to the 7.5-foot setback. But building code, if you go down to a 5-foot setback, which is on what the Orange County requires, you have to beef up those walls if you're 10 feet of the fire rating of the soffit and stuff. As this lot was not seeking to go to a 5-foot setback, which still wouldn't have changed our opinion, we look at this and said, if by code you combine lots to meet the minimum zoning, you could have one single-family home here, or you could have two nice single-family residences. So we worked with the applicant to be able to draw a lot line which would have one lot meet zoning, the other lot exceeds zoning in overall square footage, minimum 7,000, they're at over 9,000. It's just that lot width. And we feel comfortable with the surrounding area. We feel comfortable with building codes that a single-family home can be permitted here and not be a detriment.
All right. Any questions from the dais? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to open the public hearing. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back up. We only need one motion for this one. So I will entertain a motion for the variance.
I will make that motion. I make a motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend a variance for Nassim Chandri at 1108 East Silver Star Road, project number VR 1902.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Member Mellon, a second by Member Lomnick. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? All right. Thank you very much. All right, next item is project status report in the calendar. So we'll turn it over to,
Thank you. Staff's working on 2 initiatives. The first one would be under the planning website, where you can find all pre-application meetings, development review committee meetings, and projects under review on a nice map with a call out of what the projects are. Hope to have that final product for you at the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. And secondly, our great GIS department's working on a digital map that you can pull up and pan around and have those same projects pop up. So you don't have to call me as much. No, just kidding. Please call me. But you're going to be able to see agendas week by week, and you'll be able to see projects on the website.
very good.
For your use.
All right.
I'll be attending the International Shopping Center Conference in Orlando, August 25th, 26th, and 27th, and scheduling some meetings with users, and hope to, maybe in a September meeting, be able to announce something. That
Sounds good.
maybe you guys will ask me to lead the Ocoee parade or something. But
All right.
with that, I'll entertain any questions. I'm sure you've seen some development going on or have some questions in the area, perhaps.
I see they've started clearing the land west of McGuire, right a bit south of the
Yes.
east-west for that townhouse development.
That is for a 90-unit townhome development and an associated commercial development right next door. Yes, we were able to finally get meet the requirements with the property owner to the south for the right-of-way, and it's all under construction. Yes.
Very good.
That Top Gun facility is quite a standout
It'll
property.
it'll clean up a little bit. It'll get some jewelry on it. Look a little bit better.
That looks good.
How's the Waffle House coming?
It'll be coming. It'll be coming. We're already in the pipeline to build 2, and so we're the next one.
Very good. All right. Any other questions?
South, where the Colony Plaza used to be,
Yes.
do they are they announcing tenants yet on those 2 first buildings?
You'll see the 2 shell buildings are complete. We have 2 internal build-outs to date, one for Vitality Bowl. You pay a lot of money to have some berries and the second is for Pacific Dentist. We were meeting with them out at the Orlando show, and they'll be revealing additional users. They still say, as they've always said, and we've had an air conditioning plan for a Tijuana Flats, but I do not have the rest of the build out for the Tijuana Flats, so. But we're meeting with them, and hopefully they'll give us a good report.
How many more buildings will there be in on that dirt?
They've cleared the rest of the parcel. They paid the liens off and all that stuff. There's potential for 1, 2, 3, 4 more buildings, just depends on what size.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Actually, 6 buildings. 2 more to the east, 2 on McGuire Road, and 2 or 3 in the middle.
Ocoee Village, Franklin Street.
Yes.
It's sort of,
Met with Mr. Parrott today. He's chomping at the bit.
I imagine.
That parcel has limited access, Department of Transportation easement in front. They've overcome that. We're ready to receive their FDOT permit when Central Florida Expressway Authority has a strip, and Dana has been working on this in front. Initially, the Expressway Authority was going to transfer that land to us, was the thought. Then they came back and said, no, we're not going to transfer it, but we're looking at giving them a driveway permit. Here's the problem with that. If the Expressway Authority took all of their road frontage back whenever, they would have made that parcel landlocked, which is against the law, and it would have been a full taking on the property. Just so happens the position of the driveway, which is optimal to the city for future expansion of Silver Star Road and for the approved plan on the development, is right smack dab in the middle of the property. There's a drainage issue within the Central Florida Expressway limited in front of their strip where the driveway is going to go. And so that's what we're understanding is the holdup now is dealing with that drainage issue. So we're going to do a pre-construction meeting with his site contractor and expand his clear and grub to begin working on the site, everything but the entrance. We're hoping that at worst, maybe the entrance has to shift over 10 feet and the driveway won't be dead center. He won't modify the buildings. If it moves any further than that, he's going to have to look at the buildings, but he'll still be under site development. And that would be a minor revision to the site plan unless he's going to increase square footage or bring in a different use. It would be a major and come back through this process. But if he's going to slightly move the building position, that's not major. We can do that at a staff level. But just met with him today to get his update.
Okay. Any additional? All right, well, I guess with that, we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair Williams, a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening there, y'all.
Yeah.
And we'll see you back here in September.
When the summer's
Which is like crazy, wasn't it just January?
I know, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Thank you very much.
Start breaking ground on the college.
What's the spelling of your last name?
Well, we're meeting for next week with Cleo
Yeah, yeah.
and the school people.